So, looking at follow-up Marxism in America's Middle Class, please click the download arrow to get that document in. Now, I tend to go through this every time anyway, but we've got special reasons to do that. I'm still getting blank documents from some of you. So make sure you use Cami. If it prompts you to sign in, just, of course, click sign in. All right. Drag and drop your document. You should not be prompted to do this, but I am for good reason. Okay, and what I want us to do here is, based on our discussion, different ones of you will have seen different things that jumped out. Right? Some of us will have important evidence, of course, from all of the stuff that will be in common, like things from the CNBC video. But I want to make sure we kind of have this in a notes form that we can use later. All right. So somebody start us off here. What is some evidence that there is now more economic inequality in America than there used to be?
You wouldn't have inequality if everybody was poor, so different cities more inequality.
Right. So one way that we can think about that is, especially because cities have a lot of the high-paying jobs, is that kind of what you're getting at? That a lot of those jobs have gone to those places, and then those cities, you have the really rich people and then the really poor people. Yeah. Okay. And a lot of it, to some extent, that's even true for just people who have a lot of education but don't live in cities. Why does education matter more now than it used to? Yeah, Rain. Yeah, so I don't know why I stood up. I should just keep sitting so I can type with both hands, and you guys don't have to watch somebody make a lot of typos. All right. So yeah, part of that problem is that well-paying, I'm still going to get typos. Well-paying jobs for people without a college education or advanced training. So we'll put both because that doesn't matter. There we go. Which means that less educated people now have to take lower paying work. Well, much lower paying work. And that's kind of what happened. That's one of the things that has happened even in St. Joe. When I still taught a contemporary issues class, and maybe it'll come back next year, one of the topics that students wanted to talk about was what happened to St. Joseph. Well, one of the things that happened to St. Joseph is some of the old factory jobs that were unionized and paid a lot of money disappeared. Right? Quaker Oats closed. Sites was what we had as kind of the main meat processing plant in town before Triumph came in. And that had been a unionized factory. Those jobs paid a lot of money. When those factories closed down, those workers didn't move from their unionized high-paying jobs at Quaker Oats and Sites to another factory that was unionized. They went into something else. And a lot of times, some of them might have become custodians for the school district, groundskeepers for the school district, but they didn't make anything like the money that they used to in those old jobs, right? Because those well-paying jobs for people without college or advanced training just are much harder to get, right, and much fewer than they used to be in the past. And so those people had to leave and take work paid a lot less. And that's been the story in cities across America. It's one of the things that's hit the Midwest particularly hard. Okay, so that gives us two things that if you guys want, you can put little dashes in there or something to make it easier for you to keep these ideas separated. Okay. What are these numbers that we always hear thrown around for talking about the gap between the rich and the poor? Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren are big fans of these. That's Stossel. We're going to get to Stossel. So you keep those numbers, but just set those aside for right now, and then I'm going to call on you because we're going to need those numbers. All right, these are the even simpler numbers. Yes. So what are our two percentages? And they're just two. I don't have any Bernie Sanders fans in here or Elizabeth Warren. Anybody? Aiden, just because that doesn't mean that you have to be a fan of either of those people. You might just know their numbers. What are their numbers? Yeah, they're percentages that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and lots of people are always talking about. Nope, you guys are still making this. When it finally clicks, some of you are going to slap your foreheads. Right? Who are the rich? What's the percentage? We just use a percentage. There we go, the 1%. All right. So, all right, we have this whole language that in the past just did not exist. We didn't. I mean, I would say when I was young, but it wasn't even really when I was young. We just didn't use this language until really, I don't know, probably until 2012 or somewhere around there. All right, so oh man, we're just like this computer wants to give us extra ease today. Let's make sure we remember. If you want to, you can add. You don't have to. It's not just the poor, it's everyone else. Rich people have to pay way less taxes. Okay, yeah, so I mean that's like the rich people usually still don't pay. Right. So wealthy have tax advantages and loopholes. I mean, some of it's not even loopholes, just some of the way that stuff is taxed. I mean, Warren Buffett is the famous billionaire from Omaha and one of the richest men in the world. And he has been very public in pointing out that he pays less in taxes than his secretary as a share of his income. Yeah, Nick. Yeah, go ahead and scan and the rest of the drill. Okay. So yeah, I mean that's part of it. Kinley.
Couldn't it also be about gender?
So, not today. I know that sounds like a horrible thing for me to say. It's like, oh yeah, the white guy up in front of the room says no, not today. So we're going to talk about gender and economic disparities there when we talk about gender conflict theory. But for now, let's just be Marxists and we'll just talk about the rich and the poor, right? Because what Marx would say, Kinley, is that you're trying to split the poor, right, and get women to focus on women's issues and men to focus on men's issues instead of their united cause against the bourgeoisie. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that's going to come back. All right. So The wealthy also have other advantages. And don't worry, I know when you turn this in, we're not going to be able to see all this, but I want it to be in your document. Another thing, aside from the tax advantages that you saw in the arguments, is that wealthy people are able to leverage the advantages they have now to have more advantages later, or to keep other people from sharing in the good life. Why were they talking about that lady who used to be the star on Full House and some other lady who I've totally forgotten her name? Why did these rich white ladies go to prison?
They do their kids way into college.
Yeah,
They
because
deserve
only
to be there.
rich people are like they can get into like good schools without like
Doing any of the work.
yeah.
Right.
And
So
the average.
yeah, and now those are extreme examples, right? But hold on, I'm not saying that to dismiss it. Let's write that down before we move on. Because it's not, like I said, that's an extreme example, but it's actually worse than that, right? Because, I mean, Rebecca and Sophia, you'd be like, well, yeah, I mean, that lady was able to bribe her kid's way into a really good college. And that's horrible. And that is horrible, but it's much worse than that because it's a much wider story. For students in America, students at Central High School, for that matter, if you have parents who, and they don't, it's not even that your parents have to be what we would call rich, right? But if your parents are fairly well educated and middle class people, they're going to be able to do things for you that will help you, right, get into a good school, right, or a good training program, that will help you start off life positioned to become wealthier. Right? It might be, right, at the higher end of this, it might be that, let's say, Montana's bougie parents, right? Tori, do we think Montana has bougie parents? What do we think? We think so, right? Yeah. All right, bougie parents. All right, Montana, your bougie parents are going to pay for people to help you get good ACT scores. And now, your parents, though, also, because they're educated, they read news magazines. Maybe they've got a subscription to Apple Plus. And so they saw this article that says middle class girls are now having an extra hard time getting into college because so many middle class girls are going to college. I know that sounds weird, but that creates problems. It makes it harder for you to stand out. They also found out that some of these schools you might want to get into don't look at the ACT score anymore. Right? But don't panic. Their bougie parents have got you covered. Right? They are going to pay for a college coach, an admissions coach, that is going to help you have the best looking applications. They're going to work on your application essay. They're going to do all kinds of things to make sure you still shine. And you're still going to do really well in the ACT because you're going to get lots of coaching on that just in case. Whereas, see, Sophia, what do we say, Tori? No bougie parents for Sophia? No. Working class, all right, blue collar parents for Sophia? All right. Sophia does not have any of those advantages, right? Sophia may be just as bright as Montana, but is not going to get that extra coaching, isn't going to have an admissions coach to help write essays and get all this other stuff lined up. And so you and Sophia, after high school, are going to diverge, right? You might get to go to a really good school that is going to, like, their job placement is awesome. You're going to land in a company where right out of school, you're going to be making six figures, right? And Sophia is going to be lucky to land an entry-level job at an office somewhere making low five figures, right? So there's that difference. Also, right, when you go off to college, Montana, with the bougie parents, right, they're going to cover your room. They're going to give you money for food, transportation, all of that. Sophia, on the other hand, with the blue-collar parents, is going to have to work through college, right, and pay for all of these things. So when you get out and you're making six figures, right, you're going to get to keep most of that because you don't have debt. Whereas Sophia, even if Sophia doesn't have debt, Sophia was able to save nothing during college and is now making a lot less. Right? So that gap between the two of your families is going to be even more exaggerated in your generation than it was in your parents' generation. Right? That's some of what these arguments are talking about, is that leveraging of privilege now to make more privilege later, right, and exclude other people. All right. Thank you, Montana and Sophia, for playing along. I know I don't ask for volunteers, so I'm not going to thank you for volunteering. I just thank you for suffering with a smile. All right. Okay. What has happened in terms of buying power for the money that the working class still has? Right? According to people who really say that economic inequality is a big problem, does a working class person today have as much purchasing power as they had in the 80s?
No, most certainly not.
Right. Now, I mean, at least according to those, because we'll see if they're, because it does. That last video with that guy from the Hoover Institution at Stanford, I mean, he's right. It does very much depend on which data you look at. But if you look at some of that data, it very clearly shows that purchasing power has gone down. And this video, I mean, although Aiden, so to the credit of that side, very clearly, that video was made during a period that is now referred to as the Great Moderation, when we had years and years of low interest rates and low inflation. You guys are going to get out of high school, chances are, especially those of you that are juniors and seniors right now, you guys are going to exit high school into a period of high inflation and high interest rates. Good luck to you, right? I've already got my mortgage. I've got my car loan. I'm not going to be buying another car for probably 10 years, right? I'm locked in at low interest rates, and I bought those things before the prices shot up during the pandemic. So that's good for me, and that's going to be tough for you, right? The buying power of working class wages has been really cut by inflation, and high interest rates are going to make all the things you need to buy when you get out of high school more expensive. Sorry, I know, we've been through this, right? I'm the destroyer of dreams. Right? Remember that. Right? You should be very sad at the end of every class period we have.
We should do a button that says Dream Destroyer.
You could. I was hoping for something blingier, like really big, like written in the letters of an '80s Chevy Monte Carlo. Right, you look that up. Brandy, you're doing art back there sometimes, not during class, but you've always got your art. You could design that. Right? Maybe it would be the first tattoo I ever get, because I have yet to join that club. Still not sure I want to. Right? What if I ever end up on the run from the feds? Right? I don't know that I need identifying marks.
Put some, what is it called? Foundation.
Put some concealer on. Yeah.
Do it after you run out from the feds because they're looking for guys with tattoos. You have a giant one on your chest.
Perfect. I like that. That's good. I'll be like totally tatted up if I ever commit a federal crime. All right. Let's see if I've got anything on here I want us to get. Okay. So now let's look at some reasons to maybe not be so sad. Right? What are some reasons to think that inequality really isn't that big a deal? And there are some. And here's where you come back in, Jaslyn. All right. You had those two percentages for us. The 32 and 200. You were right. Jaslyn, you most certainly. That's right. You said the right thing the first time. I guarantee it. So, as John Stossel, a.k.a. Sophia's best friend forever, isn't that right? That was you, Sophia, big fan of John Stossel? Yeah. I like the enthusiasm conveyed by that sound. All right. used to be much better at typing, but now that I've got a new a new keyboard to learn, we're back to square one. All right, so 32% richer versus 200% richer for the rich. Now, I know that still sounds like a huge gap, but the point Stossel was trying to make is that why should we be so worried about the gap if everybody is still doing better than they were, right? And let's face it, I mean, 32% richer is still that's still, yeah, I mean, so think about it. I mean, how many of you work right now? All right. Pick on somebody. Jackson, where you don't have to tell us where you work, but if you want to, you can. Okay, you work in Kansas City at a hair salon. All right. Do you mind telling us what you make an hour? 17. That's dang, Jackson. Gosh dang. Seriously, when I started for this school district and was fighting with the state for my certification, I barely made more money an hour than you did. Nicely done, Jackson. Seriously. All right. Now, Jackson, all right, if you made 32% more, which is basically a third, so 550, if you made 22.50 an hour, would that make a big difference in? Yeah. All right. So that's good. But now already, Jackson, obviously from my reaction and the reaction of just about everybody else in the room that made any reaction at all, you're doing better. So who else has a job that does not pay $17 an hour? All right. Sophia, since we said Stossel's your best friend, we'll give you a chance to kind of clear the air on this. How much do you make an hour? 10:30. Where do you work? Pi 5. Okay. All right. So 10:30. Okay. Now, if it makes you guys feel any better, when I started working, the minimum wage was $5.15. So
Yeah, minimum wage is supposed to be 11.15, but the tips help.
wait, but yours is mostly a carry-out business, isn't it?
It's so we don't drive anywhere because we don't have the people to do it.
Okay. But no, I mean so I figured most people just came and took it to go and didn't really tip you.
But some people sit down.
Okay.
But a lot of people press no tip.
I was going to say, I'm going to guess you don't get much in the way of tips.
They don't tip ever.
Yeah. So for you, if you were all of a sudden to start making, let's call it $14 an hour.
I'd be happy with 11.
Yeah. So maybe Stossel is, you just haven't realized that he's your best friend yet. Because that's what he's saying. It's when you don't have as much, getting 32% richer, it makes a huge difference.
I prefer 200,
right. Well, yeah, but for let's take one of our billionaires, Jeff Bezos, right? The billionaire right now that people love to hate, right? Or Elon Musk. I think.
I hate
Who do you hate more?
Elon.
Elon Musk. All right. So, okay. So for either of those, right, does it make that much difference for how they live if they become 200% richer?
It does. Because then they just spend their money on stupid things.
Like space. Okay.
They don't care.
Although actually my 7-year-old daughter loves space. But
you love space, but you don't have to send a car up there, or just send a house up there, or I don't care.
Oh, I know. Well, so we looked at climate change as one of my contemporary issues, and I didn't realize until some students found this out, or maybe it was judging debate, that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, they're going to space stuff, causes each one of those rocket launches, especially one of them uses kerosene for a lot of it, emits more greenhouse gases in one launch than some vast sum of other human activities. So, all right. So maybe it does make a difference. But still, Stossel's saying, for a lot of poor people, that 32% makes a more meaningful, tangible difference in their lives than Elon Musk tacking on some more billions to his net value. All right. And do also note, one thing I will say in defense of the billionaires is things can turn around for them fast, right? Jeff Bezos, part of what happened to him and his ranking in the world's richest people is that he went down fast because a lot of what we assume is his money is really the value of his Amazon stock. And when Amazon tanks like it has this year, right, his net worth goes way down, right? Whereas if, let's say that Jackson works for Amazon making $17 an hour, you're still making $17 an hour, right? They don't cut your wages when the stock price goes down, right? So, I mean, there is something to this. Right? And guys, don't try and read in like, oh, what's Dr. Brown's political position? Guys, I'll always bounce back and forth, devil's advocate for whichever side we're dealing with. All right. What else? What's like? We saw this in a couple of videos. We saw these little graphics of people moving around. There was like different colors of little stick figures moving back and forth between quintiles. What was that all about? Some people moved up, some people moved down.
Oh, 3 out of 4 people like reached the 20%.
Yeah, at some point in their life, right? So some people start out at the bottom, move to the top. Some people at the top move down to the bottom. People in those middle 3 quintiles move back and forth.
Poor people are self-made billionaires.
Right. Yeah, can be. I mean, we don't all make it, right? But some of us do. And the fact that we can is important for this argument. So does it matter if there's a big gap between the rich and the poor if poor people still become rich and rich people can still lose their position and become poor? Okay, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you have to be convinced by John Stossel or that guy from Stanford, but the point is that people... All right, and now for our third thing here that never makes anybody happy, never convinces anyone. But it has to do with John Stossel waving a smartphone in your face. Why did poor John Stossel wave a smartphone in your face?
Because he was such an
Right. So, no, I mean, I'm not old enough that I remember the 70s, but I can tell you in the 80s, like, things sucked, right? I mean, it was not a... No. I mean, not even... No, it really wasn't even for its time. So, I mean, I had a friend who had, in high school, he had an 84 Camaro, and it had a 305 cubic inch V8. And it turned out far fewer horsepower than a Camaro that would have been 20 years older, right? I mean, for people in the 80s, like, things went backwards on a lot of stuff, right? So, and I mean, the computers, like, when we went into the computer lab in elementary school, you had to sit down and be like, Estelle, make sure you ground yourself before you touch your computer. And Estelle and everybody else would sit down and touch the metal leg of their chair so that they didn't fry the computer with static electricity in the wintertime, right? No, I mean, things were not as good, right? I had to, when I went biking across town, I had to take a quarter to make a phone call, and you always had to check because some not nice person, I usually didn't call them not nice persons, but I'm in the classroom, so I can't call them what I usually did. You would like spit on the receiver of the payphone, right? And so if you didn't look, like, you mashed saliva from some stranger up on your ear, right? Because we didn't have cell phones, right? We started to, but they were big and they existed in like a briefcase, right? And they still had a cord that attached to this massive battery thing. Yeah. So Stossel's not wrong that things have gotten better. What's his point? Right. Well, and that's so. Like I said, this never convinces anybody, but right, I'm still gonna try, right? Just so that you fully consider both sides. And before I do that, though, let me do something else because I can already tell that we're gonna run short on time. So, yes, Tori, you may, Tori. No, that is what we're not going to do. Yeah, but I've unpublished it, so now you can't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, Mary. All right. Okay. All right, so I'm going to write this down here, and so everybody has access to better products. So I'm going to write that. There we go. All right, so let's think about it. Let's think about this from a couple of different angles. For one thing, when I was a kid, how many of you, what would you guess? And so we're just going to put this in the 80s. We'll be kind of nebulous about this. In the 80s, what percentage of households do you think had a TV bigger than 20 inches?
None.
Or let's take it a little higher to make this clear cut. 30 inches.
20%, 10%.
That's probably where I would put it. Is like maybe 10%. Right? Maybe. So for most of my life, right, TVs were like small. Right? They might be as big as like this laptop, like this. Right? That was it for a lot of people. Right? My uncle trained executives for Hallmark and had a lot of money, and he had a huge TV. Right, in the 80s. But it was magical. I mean, I walked up next to it. I was a little kid. He was watching golf. The golfers were as big as I was. Now, right, that TV is smaller than this, right, by quite a bit, and they're everywhere, right? All over the place. Thank you. So, there's that. Right? What percentage of households do you think had a personal computer? Right? Forget whether it's a laptop that they could take with them or not, right? But any kind of personal computer in the 1980s. I bet it'd be more like 5%. Honestly, I mean, it was like because they were very expensive and very few people had them. Right? Yes, Aiden. Yeah. Well, and what percentage of people own cell phones in the 1980s?
Less than 1%.
Yeah. So, and now, like, you've all got them, right? Almost. Not all. I do still have a very small number of students who don't, right? And that's okay, but it's very uncommon. Right?
Not having a phone has become the new having
It has it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like less than like.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Like, not in that it's a cool thing.
Don't have a phone at this age.
Okay, so it's not that like Tatum is like throwing away their phone and be like, I don't want one of those. I want to be a cool kid. But you're saying like it's just in terms of percentages.
Yeah, in terms of
Okay.
percentage-wise, I'm not saying like who has a flat phone also like don't have one. I'm saying like we're not
Right. Okay, and then here's the other part about this. We think about it. So Elon Musk has hundreds of billions of dollars. And Jeff Bezos, even though he's lost value, I'm sure he's still over $100 billion. Does that mean that... No, I unpublished it. Does that mean that Jeff Bezos can have the iPhone 23 right now?
No,
It hasn't been invented. What's the most recent iPhone? Is it the 14? I don't know. I have the 12 mini. So
I have
that's...
an iPhone 7.
And there's not a thing wrong with that.
And there's not. I love it.
So I had an 8, and I would still have an 8, except the battery went bad, and AT&T had some promotion that made getting a 12 cheaper than buying a new battery. So, I mean, that's what happened for me. Right, but so here's the thing. Right? Haley and Jeff Bezos very likely can have the exact same smartphone. He can't buy the 23 with his extra money. He can only buy as good a stuff as Haley can also have. And that's kind of Stockton's point.
And you just sit on the money and you don't go to her.
What's that? You guys don't have to turn it in. I'll change the due dates. We'll finish it up on, I would say tomorrow, but on Monday.
Well, it's not due until 20.
Oh, it's not? This is what happens when I put assignments in Canvas while I have COVID brain. Like, that's what happened there. All right, thanks for letting me know, Tatum.
And do you still have those slips open for the 23rd? Because I saw those earlier today.
Yeah.
It was like
No,
a slip.
again, COVID brain. I got I started feeling a little bit better, and I got really excited because I had time to actually do stuff and work ahead, and I got carried away. No, that's gone, Tatum.
gonna get that one. Ruder dream revenge tattoo.
I'll have to go to so Rebecca and Brandy. There was a David Cross. I don't know if you know him, a comedian. It doesn't matter what he's. But he's also a stand-up comic, and one of his things is about this honest to goodness real life tattoo parlor he saw called the home of you get tattoo. So yeah, that's like I'm thinking like Brandy's gonna design this, and then like Rebecca's gonna get me a gift card to the Get What You Get tattoo, and I can just see it's not ending. Yes, I know that he was. I can't remember what the name of it was, but there was the name of the parlor, and then underneath it was the home of the Get What You Get tattoo.
I think that might be the place where they got the Noble Roots tattoo.
Yes, and that's yes. And then you can play it, and you're like, oh, you get what you get.
Don't throw a fit.
You should get one of those World War I German mustaches. You know those?
Oh,
The handlebar mustache?
yeah. At one point, my beard was long enough that actually I never did it in public, but just for kicks one day, I saw what I could do, and it was.
I get that. Sometimes I make my hair into a mohawk.
Yeah, yeah, and then I do it somewhere else, like the normal way, and then I leave
You
it out.
should get one of those tattoos where it's like a little
Have a good day, guys.
and a little stick figure up here, and you can make it a mohawk.
Oh, that would be fun.
If hand tattoos didn't fade.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
bad.
Well, or I could just stop washing my hands.
Can you not stop washing your hands?
I think that would be best for all of us if I kept
Yeah,
washing my
please
hands.
keep washing your hands.
Will do, Rain. Will do. See you guys later. Good morning, Amelia.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tom. All right. Tom, Amelia, make sure nobody burns the place down. I got to go print something. I'll be right back. Pardon me. Good morning. Good morning.